Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design. Hey everyone, I'm just jumping in to introduce you to our next Millions of Millionaire program sponsor, someone you already know, the incredible Jess Bubbico. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you sponsoring the podcast and getting your message out there, because I know for me, when I did your program last year, what was so incredibly useful was that I was growing a business. I was an entrepreneur, but I was really getting into this more spiritual woo soul space and trying to navigate, okay, so should I be doing it this old school marketing way, or should I be doing it, this other way? The program that I did with you really got me in touch with my intuition. It really helped me to understand that I can be spiritual and I can be, woo, and I can actually use those gifts to help me succeed in business. It's not just about, being able to use my intuition for other people or for as a business. It's really, I can use it to build my business as well. So I'd love to really hear about how specifically you're helping people with the offers you've got as part of this program.
Absolutely. So right now, what I have with the Millions of Millionaires program is really supporting people through the Soulpreneurship Activation Session. And really what this session is about is helping you to get in touch with your energy, helping you to get in touch with your intuition in the way that you are created to create a successful business, and whatever successful business looks like for you. I got to the point where I was getting extremely tired of the cookie cutter. You have to do this, you have to make your business look like that. And I really got to a point where I want people to be able to trust themselves, trust their intuition, trust their inner compass, and create their business in a way that works for them. And that's going to look different for everybody. The days of the cookie cutter business, having the funnel, having the course, making it look like that, I think are coming to an end in terms of that being the success code for everybody. So my offering is really about helping you get connected with yourself, get connected with your inner compass, come back to your energy and start to take action in a way that works for you and what you want to create.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like the two words that really jump out for me is take action. I know that a lot of my success comes down to one of my fundamental beliefs, and that's like just to take imperfect action. Done is better than perfect. And I feel like this action piece and intuition, like they kind of never used to coexist. And I love what you said, like this is all shifting and changing now, and that the old funnel or the old, structure of how you should market, I totally agree. This is really falling apart. I know for me that as my business has grown and evolved, one of the things that has been most important is actually building my trust muscle with my own intuition, because my intuition's been telling me, do this, focus on that. But, I've overridden it with, the marketing person that I follow or the business person that I follow, and ultimately haven't got the results that I wanted until I've fully, tapped into my design, tapped into my intuition, and tapped into those things and started to trust myself and the universe more. So can you help people with these sessions directly trust themselves and the universe more?
Absolutely. And most of my clients, what they come away from any session with is they're like, I feel so activated, I feel clear, and I feel ready to take action. So I think the biggest thing is really developing that trust and flexing that trust muscle. Most people are like, oh, I have so much I'm having challenges with marketing and knowing how to put myself out there. And it's like, we can, I think, start to cut through the old marketing plan, the way things are supposed to look, and actually just start moving with our intuition, with trusting ourselves, with trust in the universe, and start to see that the right things are actually all around us already. We just need to shift the way we're looking at them and understanding them.
Yeah, I love that. And, I as you know, and many of the listeners know, I've just hired a new marketing person. And between myself and the amazing human that was doing my marketing up until now, like we grew the Instagram from 300 to nearly 6,000 people with very little effort and no marketing strategy. And I kind of feel like this really talks to exactly what you're here to support people with, that there is an easier way. The hardest thing is, though, is learning how to trust it, learning how to trust, being different and doing things your own way.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit about these offers. And obviously, we're going to have all the links in the show notes, but tell them where they can find them and what specifically they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So the two offers that are essentially staying the same for the time being, because I find as a manifestor and trusting my unique way of creating my unique way of marketing is like the urge comes through me and I create it. And so sort of the doorway offer to work together and to start getting aligned with your energy, your intuition, the way you're designed to create. Is number one, I have intuitive readings still up on my page. So if you're wanting to connect and dive in and receive guidance around your business, your life, you can absolutely access an intuitive reading with me there. And then I have the Soulpreneur Activation Sessions. And so these, we're going to go through your human design. I tune in, I connect to spirit, I connect with your higher self, connect in with the energy of your business, and really start to channel through, again, also using your human design, the way that you're, again, designed to create. And so it's a very activating session. You walk away with different action steps that you can take to start creating that momentum and flow in your business and life.
I love it. I love it. And, as a friend of yours and someone who's known you for a while now, and, one of the things I think that whether you consciously, because I know you consciously choose to do this a lot, but whether you consciously choose to do it or not, one of the things that I feel so grateful for is like you are incredibly inspiring, and working with you or just being a friend of yours, like being inspired into action is something that is just your natural gift. So I genuinely feel like this is a place to help people who are on that edge, like I kind of know where I'm going, but I don't know what action to take and I don't know how to get there. I really believe that you are such a way shower for this. So all of you listening, get on it, because you will really have an incredible session with Jess.
Thank you.
So welcome. Thanks, everyone. And I'll let you get back to the rest of the episode. Bye for now. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. Now, today we are talking about the sacral, and we're talking about the sacral with my newest team member, Brittany Roberts. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It is so exciting to have this conversation all about the sacral with you. Okay, so for our players at home, can you just let them know what is your human design type, authority, and profile?
For sure. So 6'2" manifestor with emotional authority, and to a T, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Brilliant. So obviously today I'm going to be talking about having a defined sacral, and Brittany's going to be talking about having an undefined sacral. One of the things I do want to point out at the outset is that with our podcast, they're just a snippet, like the panels that we hold in HDX, they're super powerful because we have all the types, all the different configurations, and we can dive really deep. But the idea here for the podcast is to make sure that all of you guys don't miss out on the awesomeness. So we bring you the highlights and things that can help you in your everyday life. Because I know when you're new to human design, it can be really challenging to understand what it all means. And we can so quickly want to go straight to our gates, and then that confuses our mind and we go into overwhelm, and then we just give it up altogether. And that's one of the things I don't want you to do. I want you to make sure that when you come to your human design, just know that between your ego and your mind, it will be confusing. It will be a little bit all over the place. But if you just take one small step at a time, focus on your strategy and authority, go and get your chart. Remember, it's free. You can get it on my website. Come and join us in HDX, and it'll help you with your experiment. But just stick with it, because the whole purpose with human design is that you're learning it through the mind, but you have to integrate it into the body before you really start to run the experiment and know what's true for you. So today, on that note, what we're going to talk about is the sacral. We're going to give you some high-level stuff about having a defined sacral and an undefined sacral, maybe what that means, how that shows up for you, and how you can navigate it as a superpower, whether it's defined or undefined. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. So why don't we just start with the at the beginning? Like, one of the things, because the sacral is obviously the home of the generator, and generators and manifesting generators make up, most of the population. We're talking, just shy of 70%. We talk a lot about how it feels to have one, the yes, the no, the pull. That we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I really want to know from your point of view, like, what does it feel like to have an undefined sacral? Like, what is that feeling like?
Well, when we were talking at the panel the other night, which was so good, you guys, like, she is really underselling it here. Like, it is so good and so unique in that space. I would say it kind of feels like I have to really push myself to get going. Now, I do think I have a really strong will. I have a well-defined will center. And so that helps. Like, if I am super excited and passionate about something, I can kind of override everything else, but I feel it. And I was just saying the other night that it's like pushing a car up a hill. It's so hard to get going sometimes if I know I need rest, especially. And I can work, and I've been a teacher for 5 years. I understand what it's like to work hard. And I get to a point where I get to the top of a hill and it seems like I'm going downhill, which seems like it should be easy, but I know that there's a crash at the bottom of the hill. And that can be really frustrating. And especially if you know that you want to get things done, you're excited about stuff, but you're working against your own body, basically. And I feel it like with even my health now. So that's something I'm really working towards, working on listening to my body when it needs rest. And it's easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah. I love what you said. And that metaphor that you shared on the panel was so good, that feeling of like, if you can just sort of push yourself up to the top of the hill, then you can kind of build momentum. And one of the things I loved about you, and yes, you're a manifestor as well, but you sort of talked about once you have the energy, you could get lots done. But when the energy wasn't there, that's the piece that you've really started to learn to honor and let yourself not have the energy and actually recover, instead of trying to continue to push yourself. Is that
absolutely
fair?
Absolutely. And I think that being obviously who I'm around really makes a big difference too. I was saying the other night that I have a feeling that a lot of teachers are generating their own energy, and that makes sense with the population being mostly what it is. And I feed off of that. Like, when I'm in a really busy, buzzing space, like even just thinking about it, I'm getting all amped up about it. When I'm in an airport, I get so much work done. I don't know why. I could just go for 2 hours and I get so much done in that time. But if it's a quiet space, if there's no one else around, that's when I really feel it. And I was even telling my husband earlier, I can't sit down right now, because if I sit down, I'm going to fall asleep, So I almost get to a point where I have to push myself a little bit to finish things, because if I really let myself feel it, then I realize how tired I am, which I know is not healthy. I'm working on it.
Yeah. And now you're working with me. Don't you worry. We will find a balance. We will work it out. And you can borrow energy from me and Taylor until we've got the balance right.
Yes.
I love what you were saying as well, because, you said you go to an airport or you're teaching and you feel this, all of a sudden you've got all this energy and enthusiasm. I know for me, having a defined sacral, like, I know that I'm the generator of my energy, reliable energy source within me. And I've always really resonated with that. This for me as well, like, because I have so many undefined centers, when I go to busy places, I definitely pick up, especially it's the G center that really amps up for me, and also undefined head and ajna in public places. And if I stay with the G center, it's fun and exciting and it's higher selves everywhere. But if it's the mental stuff, I can really let it overwhelm me. I know for many years, I was confused by the fact that all of a sudden I became afraid of flying. But I realized I was actually just picking up on everyone else's energy and identifying with it as my own instead of letting it go. So for the way the sacral feels for me, is it very much is this consistent, I can feel that energy and that fire burning inside of me. And the big thing, obviously being a sacral being, is that when something happens in my external reality, I just know if I have energy to do it or not. But there's always a choice. Like I always feel like there's a choice to have the energy or not to have the energy. As opposed to what I'm hearing for you is it's kind of like, no, I just don't have the energy. Like right now it's time out. I'm calling it, but I can't call it. I have to kind of, find another way. So I think that's the first real distinction between having a defined sacral and having an undefined sacral is, whether you actually have access to real energy in any moment or not. Fair to say, does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And like I was saying, like my will can override that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I am like, for lack of a better word, a kind of stubborn person in a good way though. Like if I commit to like, no, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to get this done, then even if I am tired, I will do it. And also my word means a lot to me. So if I say something, I really want to honor it. And so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And sometimes that'll push me through. And again, that's a strength, but I pay for it in some other way later. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing is like, it's not like saying that we like can't work more or that we can't find the energy, but there's a cost there. And so you're paying for it down the road somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting, and, one of the reasons that, that we're really excited to work with you as well is like the energy wise, one of the things that you spoke about from the outset was that you have this ability to get lots of stuff done in a short period of time and then switch off,
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is really aligned for a non-sacral being. It's starting to, and I appreciate as well for you, like you're in this transition where you've been in this old world where you just have to turn up and be on, and you're transitioning into this new world where you start to get to create your own boundaries. The one thing I do want to say on the sacral though, for everyone is that whether you're defined or undefined, we all have to find these boundaries. Like a sacral can keep going, but they can also go into, functional burnout just as much as an undefined sacral can hit burnout and be passed out and pay for it later. A defined sacral can pay for it later as well. So it's really, really important that you're listening to your body. I mean, this is the thing we hear over and over. And I love what you said about the Will Center. We've just I just got off the call from the Will Center panel in HDX. And, it's that determination. The defined Will Center just has this level of determination that can just keep turning up. But again, we have to make sure we use it for good in resourcefulness. So let's talk about work, because obviously work is such a massive thing that we talk about through the frame of human design. We talk about the generators and manifesting generators with the defined sacral being the workers. We're here to literally create, like be inspired into action by the likes of you as a manifestor, and then, build and create and do work. And I don't like the whole idea of the old school, old paradigm, we're here to work and everyone else is here to put their feet up. That's not the way it's meant to be. But I do want to talk about, okay, cool. If the generator or the manifesting generator with a defined sacral is here to work, I'm designed to have the energy to do what lights me up. I have to say, for my design and the experiment that I've done, like 3 days a week is tops for me. I do any more than that and I end up burning out or getting bored, which is a form of burnout for me. But I really want to sort of dive into like, okay, so if you don't have that consistent sacral energy happening all the time, and if you had a magic wand, so there was no consequences and you had all the resources that you had, that you needed, what would working look like and feel like for you?
What an amazing question. I've really been thinking about this. Like, what does my ideal work day or work week look like? And it's exciting, but it's also sad to say like, wow, I didn't even think that was ever a question I'd be able to entertain or answer because, and I talked about this on the panel as well, we are just taught from such a young age, part of that conditioning of you don't really get a choice. Like you're going to work, like it's a non-negotiable. And I don't even know if I have a firm answer. Honestly, I've thought about this. When I like the work I'm doing, I can work more than 4 to 6 hours a day. But I would love to get to a point where my work is this thing that drives me energy wise. Like I love creating. That's why I'm excited. I'm excited for what I'm doing. And I am excited that content drives people to action. Like that is my hope, is that when people go, and by the way, go follow her on Instagram if you're not already. You'll also be chatting with me.
Love it.
Yeah, go follow her on Instagram, the Human Design Coach. And when you do, my hope is that when you see those things that you'll be provoke to thought, provoke to action, and that you'll actually be taking action on what you're learning, because honestly, that's what Emma's all about. I mean, we can learn until the cows come home and never do anything with it. So
exactly.
That's what I hope that my work does. And that's what I do in my other, other things I do too. And I want to start things, like I want to be able to pave the way for other people to do their work. So I guess, yeah, that's very in line with my design.
Yeah, I love it. So we, over the next, period of time, we're going to help you really discover like, what does work look like? It starts with a 3-day week. That's what works for Taylor and I. So come join with that. I love it. Okay, cool. So we often hear about a sacral being lit up. We're lit up. We feel like, yep, we have energy to do things when we know we're aligned and excited by the work we're doing. But how do you know? What does it feel like in your body? I mean, obviously being a manifestor is going to be different to a projector and that sort of thing, but I'd love to just have an idea of, if it's not the sacral that's telling you this is what you want to do, what is it?
I guess, like, for a lack of a cheesier way to say it, my heart, like, honestly, I have a very, I guess it's a gift of like, I know what I want and I go after it. I don't really wait for permission. I just go and do it. And I have learned to like sleep on things too. Like if I see something and I'm like, okay, I really do think that's for me, I wait and give it out, just because, if I get excited, I'm like, no, I need to make sure, I need to be reasonable, figure out I have the energy for it. But yeah, that's honestly it, is like, I know right away, like, yep, that's what I want. And I wish I could tell you where it comes from. It's still something I'm kind of learning.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, you've also talked about having a defined will center, which is really helpful in knowing what you want. And of course, being a manifestor, source does move through you and inspire you. So, there's those attributes as well. I thought it was really exciting that all of the types with everyone with the undefined sacral all spoke to, it's my heart, it's my passion. I just know I love it. So although all the defined sacrals spoke to, being excited, like this common word, we even had one of the manifestors was like, I don't know what no, I don't do excitement. I've never used the word, I don't do excitement, which I thought was really funny because it never occurred to me that that's even a thing. But of course, and she's so passionate about what she does. So it was just really interesting to see that nuance between there is always going to be, whether it's, a manifestor feeling lit up and excited, or it's the curiosity and passion of a projector, or the feeling really great in an environment of a reflector, that even though there's not necessarily the inverted commas sacral work energy there is still a guide to help you follow the white rabbit of your work, no matter what type you are or what definition you have. Fair to say? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're in this really cool time right now where we're really, as a world, redefining what work is and what work looks like. And that's an exciting thing too, is that work doesn't have to look how a lot of us think it does. Like, it doesn't have to be this thing that drains us, right? Like, we can be intentional with who and how we are in the kind of work we pursue, not just in the schedule of keeping us energized, but like choosing work that lights us up for that reason. And so I find a lot of energy in the work I do when I know I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the word intention, like when we are aligned to the intentions, and that is like how we want to impact or influence the world, or, how we want to serve, or who we want to become, or what we want to heal, or whatever it is. When we are aligned to those things, then I think you're right. I feel like work is something that comes, but we also have to have the courage to define it the way it's going to look for us. We get to choose. One thing for me, being a manifesting generator, for goodness sake, the one thing that I have done, yes, I'm aligned 3, so I do tend to make mistakes more than once. But the one thing that I tend to do, or have tended in the past to do a lot, is do functional burnout. Because I love what I do and I just want to keep doing it. But because I only have 4 defined centers, and I'm a split definition, and I'm an emotional authority, meaning that I can't work as much as other configurations, as other manifesting generators. So it is really important, defined or undefined in the sacral, that you run your own experiment, that you discover your own results. Because for me as an MG, I can quite happily work 5-6 days a week doing this work, but I lose the lust for life. I miss out on my family. I don't do the fun things. And then ultimately feel, lost in the work or not inspired in the work that I do. So whether you have a defined or an undefined sacral, it is really important for you to run your experiment and just, really find out, well, what does really light you up? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? Get curious about how many days that is or how many hours that is. Like in a perfect world, I wouldn't work past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I have a lot of, European clients. Jenny Crowther is in England and, we record podcasts together and all that sort of stuff. So there's always a compromise, but as best you can, just run the experiment and be really honest with yourself, what works and what doesn't work. And that's for defined or undefined. Does that resonate with you? Do you want to add anything to that, Brittany?
Yeah. And I just want to, yeah, totally. And I was going to say that just because you can too, doesn't mean you should. And that's something else I've been learning is like, yeah, I can work a lot and I can be productive, but is that what's best for me? And then is that best for other people? Because there's definitely that law of diminishing returns, right? It's like where you can keep working, but is that going to be your best quality work? Are you going to be serving people in the best way? And so rest can actually become an urgent need is really what I've been learning.
And I think that's such an important point. I'm so glad you brought it up. Like one of the things that I've noticed as I've just sort of got over shingles, and shingles isn't just like, yes, it's a bit of burnout, but there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on that I'm working through and healing at the moment, family, intergenerational stuff that had a large part to do with it. But one of the things, having not been able to work for the 2 weeks with shingles and then having 2 weeks of school holidays where I hardly did much at all, one of the massive differences is that I see how much value I brought. Like I had my purpose and abundance call for my the crew going through it at the moment. I had the 2 calls last week and I got off both those calls and I was like, oh my God, like they got so much out of me. That was amazing. And it was because I'd had all of that rest. And I love what you said. It is that law of diminishing returns is that, I can turn up, 24/7, bust my ass, but am I being the version of me that I want to be for my clients? Nuh-uh. No. I'm being the version of me when I've got the right balance of rest as well as work. It's really important. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about one of the things with the sacral that we see in the knowledge is this piece about, desire. How do you know what you want? How do you know when you've had enough? If the sacral is defined, it's telling you, yes, I've got the energy. No, I don't have the energy. I want this. I don't want that. How do you navigate this part of you? First and foremost, like, how do you know what you want? I mean, again, we're talking to someone who has a defined will center. So a defined will center does tend to know what they want. But from like an energy point of view, from a, even knowing what you want to eat, I don't know, what you want to wear, like all sorts of things. Like, how do you know what you want?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this too since you last asked on the panel. And I think part of it is just honestly, I mean, I've tried a lot of things, so I have an idea of what I like and what I don't like. And I'm one of those people who probably just, my profile and personality, I do try things. I'm like, that sounds cool. Yeah, let's do it. And then I just go for it. I think that's one of the reasons I love travel so much. I think that, and I said this on that panel too, is that I probably struggle more with when to stop or, that I think is the hard part. It's like even with work, it's like, you have this like hanging feeling of like, did I do enough today? Like, could I have contributed more? Especially with teaching, I've had that a lot of like, did I really do everything I could have today? Like, could I have done a little better? And I'm sure anyone who cares about their work asks that at the end of the day, but yeah, that's something I've been figuring, or maybe they don't, maybe that is part of just my experiment, I guess, is like figuring out how much is enough. And yeah, but I usually have a good idea of what I want. I will say, as far as the energy thing though, sometimes I'll commit to something like a social event, for example, and I'll be so excited about it. And then the day comes and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. That is when I have a hard time of like, I'm physically tired, but I know that if I go, then as soon as I walk into the room, I'm going to be pumped. But it's the whole, again, pushing the car up the hill, getting to the door, to the space. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating as well, because, like, do you go or don't you go? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's that real catch-22 because, maybe you didn't have a sacral at the time to say whether you'd have energy for it, but then as MGs, we have a massive problem with knowing what we want to do in the moment, you know? So I think that, again, it's that running that experiment, you know, like really being able to, like you said, give it a shot, try it out, pay attention to the results that you get. Oh my God, there was something else that you said that I wanted to talk to because it was really good.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that I'll add that the social FOMO thing is real though, because because I just enjoy and appreciate people so much. And I do appreciate the energy of being in a social space. And I know what it feels like. You know what I mean? I know what it feels like when you're there. So it's like living and remembering that feeling before you go that overrides the tiredness, I guess. It's like, yeah, that's the hard choice of like, when do I know it's time to actually rest, and what does rest actually look like for me?
Yeah.
Is going and hanging out with that group of people going to be restful?
Yeah.
Or, you know, is it going to actually like drain me because that energy now is like, I'm running on fumes and so that's
really, that in itself is really fascinating to me, because it makes me go straight to my behavioral stuff, you know, like, because if you're an extrovert, then going to the party is going to give you energy. But if you're an introvert, going to the party is going to deplete your energy. So, and this is the thing that I think is really fascinating, because human design is kind of, it gives us so much more clarity than so many other tools, but we do have to overlap the other tools. So are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you know?
I would say extrovert, because I know when I'm there, I'm excited, but I will say that I can't stay up super late. I think I told you about this before. I need more sleep than the average person. Like I like people say like, oh, 6 to 7 hours. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I need 8 to 9 hours every single night. And I don't mean like going to the bed. Like I need like 30 minutes at least of downtime. I need 30 minutes to wake up. I was even saying, I'm like, man, I feel like a princess. Like when I talk to people, and my other teachers at the school don't get it. They're like, don't you also get up at 5:30? And I was like, no, I get up as late as possible because I need the sleep. And they don't understand.
I think this is fascinating as well. We talked about sleep on the panel as well, and we went into a lot more detail, but I think this is the other thing, you know, like, I mean, I need a lot of sleep, but it's not, it's really hard to explain. Like, I love how you have this real awareness, like you need to get X amount of hours. And as a sacral being, I know that I also need 7 to 8 hours every night. Like 8 hours is optimal for me. But there definitely is a different, and I see it in Justin as well, being, you know, a projector. There is just this difference, you know, that I can keep going. You know, I always remember when I was in my corporate career, and we would be out all night and then work all day. And there'd be a few of us that are just like in a corner in their, you know, underneath their desk, like they can't function. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm fine. I'm sweet. And I'd get home and pass out. But I think it is that, again, it's that difference between the sacral. So tell me, while we're talking about sleep, obviously one of the things that in the knowledge that's talked about a lot is that non-sacral beings need to sleep alone. Obviously you're married. So have you done the experiment? Like, or have there been times when one of you's traveling? Like, do you sleep better on your own, or, you know, with your partner, or what are the differences?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I've done a lot of traveling, and I've slept in hostels where I'll have like 20 people in the same room, all different personalities and stuff. And I'll be able to sleep really well. I can sleep in the airport. I can sleep, but if I'm alone, I think I actually sleep worse. I don't know if that's an energy thing or if it's more like a safety thing, because for some reason I feel safer when there are more people around. So it could be that too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. And this is really interesting. We had a lot of, on the panel, we had a lot of clarity of like, I think it was actually across the board, everyone slept better on their own, except like this anomaly. But I think this is one of the experiments that's really, really powerful. I know for my, you know, I'm the defined sacral. So I'm the one who's meant to, you know, not be as bothered. And Justin's the one who's meant to sleep better on his own, but it's actually the opposite. Again, I think it's a mental thing. Like I've always said to Just, why don't we just try it? And now we have a house where we have a spare room. So he's given me provisional permission to, you know, experiment to sleep in a different bed, you know, once in a blue moon. But with, you know, the two of us traveling, I know that I definitely sleep better on my own. And he he's a mixed bag. Like sometimes he will sleep a lot better, but other times, and I think it sounds really similar to yours, is that it's more about knowing that I'm there, that he sleeps well, as opposed to energetically sleeping well, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think like we have to consider that too, like the way that we're brought up and like all these things that affect that. I definitely sleep better when there's at least one other person around. And it's weird. It can even be loud and that's fine. I can fall asleep, which is a gift, especially when you're traveling and all this crazy stuff's happening around you. But that is really interesting.
Yeah. And I think like for everyone out there listening, the experiment is important, like sleep is the most one of the most important things we do in our lives to restore and recover our, mind, body, spirit. So really getting a handle on sleeping is important. From a human design point of view, when we lie down, our charts shift. So that what can tend to happen is that when you lie down, your type can actually change. This is a really interesting area for me because it's not part of the original download. So it wasn't something that Ra channeled. It's something that he perceived, that once we lie down, our charts then look more like the mammalian charts, which means, like we don't have a head and an ajna, a center, that other things shift and change. So when it comes to sleep, again, I highly recommend doing the experiment. And the experiment means like, what are the results that you're getting? And one time doesn't make a result, like try a few times and notice what works for you and what doesn't. Because as I say, sleep is so incredibly important. So I suppose really the last thing that I just want to ask you is about your undefined sacral being a superpower. How would you, what would you call, or how would you say your undefined sacral is a superpower?
I guess I would say that if I know I'm going to be around people, I can borrow their energy. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but if I can like get myself there, you know what I mean? Get myself to wherever the energy is happening, I can borrow it. And that allows me to work more. That allows me to get pumped up. And I would say like the biggest things I've been able to do for other people have been when I've been presenting, when I've been speaking, when I get up on stage. I studied musical theater. I don't know if I ever told you that. I studied musical theater and I'm a classically trained singer and all this stuff.
So good.
And when I'm on stage, it's just like a buzz, right? I'm just like ready to go. Let's do it. Afterwards, I'm exhausted, but you know what I mean? But while I'm doing it, it's just, I know like I'm in the flow. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Same thing when I'm like doing speaking and stuff. So yeah, I would say that's the superpowers. I can take, I should say, borrow energy from other people. And I feed off of it too. I can usually kind of read the vibe of the room and see how people are feeling and respond in that way and give them what they need in that time.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just, again, it's the superpower of an undefined center that you can literally, navigate how that energy is being used in the room, how the sacral energy is being used. Like, when people are a yes and when people are a no, when they're open and they've got energy and when they don't. And I think that's so, that is so powerful, especially being a manifestor, because, part of your purpose or the container of your purpose as a manifestor is to inspire people into action. It's so funny, like even just having you on the team, one of the things that I have wrestled with in the past is doing reels. And it's like the moment we hired you, before you'd even started, I'm like sending Taylor videos. Like, can you just turn this on? And can you just, like, I can feel like I'm already feeling, inspired into action. So I just freaking love human design. I think it's really powerful. How is my defined sacral a superpower? Well, ultimately, it's the guide to how I fulfill my purpose. Because I'm a sacral being, I'm here on the planet to do the work that lights me up. Yes, my authority is an emotional authority, so I go a bit slower. My sacral will give me, yes, I've got energy before I'm really ready, before the timing is right, and that's okay. But my superpower of the sacral really is my full body feeling of what my purpose is. I might necessarily know exactly what it is, how to pursue it, with absolute clarity of the details. I mightn't have any of those things, but what my sacral is always telling me is like this, we've got energy for this, we've got energy for this, we've got energy for this. And once you've been running the experiment long enough, you can see where the yeses are and where the nos are and how the patterns come together. And you can really start to see how you're designed to fulfill your purpose. So I would say that is my superpower for my defined sacral. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to say, I think your design is beautiful. And I love that every time I've listened to your podcast, I can just tell that you so appreciate and see the other person, no matter who they are. And I think that is such a beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. And it is, again, that's the superpower of my G Center. I feel very grateful. Although when I first came to human design, I was like, what? I really want to define G Center. I want that. But I would say that is one of my favorite things about my design is my wide open G Center, because I get to see everyone's highest expression and everyone's potential. And that is a freaking gift. It's a gift for me. And I'm so grateful that it's supportive for others and that you've seen that, because, that is a part of my purpose, that's
Absolutely.
to really build people's, self-worth and community and all of those amazing things. Oh, there we go. Defined throat, off on a tangent. Time to call it.
Love it.
Thank you so much for joining, Brittany. This has been fun. It's been fun. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for being here. I know the sacral itself, we talk so much about the sacral. We've got so many podcasts out there. Hang in there. We're going to do the solar plexus, I believe, next. Nope, we've got the will center next on the podcast, which is going to be exciting. So hang in there for that. And have an awesome day. Bye for now. Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means, get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.